the customer's house.
Cool. Yeah, I mean,
It goes everywhere.
absolute classic. It's your third
We're getting
partner.
It's our third partner.
T-shirts made. It's got on it. So,
Oh shit! That's maybe I'll not put it on
That's
there.
all right.
No, just tell you what, find your way first.
find your way,
Right,
because
I do that all the
I
time.
go round like
Yeah,
this.
you're
It's
right.
the round or it's the down. So I'll give you two options there.
I'll leave it there. So
If
that
it wasn't for the microphones, this would be much easier, wouldn't it? So,
Should we get the Madonna mics that we had on stage?
oh, Madonna mics.
Oh, is that what you had to wear instead of this?
Yeah. It's much easier than holding.
Well,
Yeah, but you just-
they're a nightmare because
you
you
do
end
that
up
talk and
pointing
then
and then
yeah.
you've got to be quite professional to like.
Aye, but you just hope.
I wouldn't call what we did professional that day.
Well,
but,
no.
We tried our best.
Especially if you're used to using your hands a lot, because then you can just use your
Oh, yeah.
elbows
Yeah.
instead. It's not a good look. It's like a chicken maneuver.
I don't know. I think we winged it quite well. Winged it.
Winged
chicken,
it,
said,
yeah, so there you go.
Oh, very good.
Thank you very much.
That happened a lot though. Lots of people that say, "Oh yeah, we did this thing in customs house," and they go, "I was there."
There's loads of
Really
people there,
bad.
wasn't
It's like
there?
a
Oh no, yeah, I know.
Yeah, there
That's
was a lot of them.
yeah. I mentioned that a few times. The
Yeah.
comments like, "I know, Dan, I was there." I was like, "All right, okay." But yeah,
So do you know the drill that we don't ever have a script for this
it's like a
podcast?
fever dream.
No, I didn't know that. And I can't believe that. Do you not? Or you
No.
just have the questions definitely in your head, or you ask the same ones, or you just ask whatever
No,
you
this
fancy.
is a getting to know you podcast, and then we kind of get to know you, and then that's how it
and
works.
then you
You've
come in
got
with the
the-
killer questions.
and then-
You've got the point where
and then
can
we stop,
abandon
and then
any
we
prep.
go to a menu, and then we do the kind of the easy
I
questions.
mean, we told this story far too many times, but it was kind of happenstance how that happened,
Yeah.
because we were like,
Should we do an intro?
wringing our hands about how we did it, and should we have like
Yeah.
core questions, and then it just happened really quickly.
Yeah.
We couldn't get to a point where we thought it was going to work, and we also didn't trust ourselves to get it right.
Yeah.
Talk to camera and
Hi everybody,
It is,
welcome
yeah,
to
it's-
His
it's a
podcast.
lot, isn't
Yeah, we have Jo Feeley on our podcast.
Yeah.
It's like I'll mess that up a million times before I get it right. So what's
and
the
it's
point?
it's not the important bit. The bit
just-
is the meat on the bones, the questions
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
answers, isn't it?
So I remember on the day of the first one, we were just standing in the old podcast studio, and Si may as well have just been like hot stepping towards the door. We were like, "What are we going to do?"
Yeah,
Oh, just play it by ear.
yeah. He's like, "Oh, I'm
And it
here
worked.
now. We'll just do it now." I'm like, "All right, okay." And then he just sat down. Then we started to talk, and that was it.
Yeah, I
and
think
now and a
that's the
half
best
later,
way.
you got a podcast. So
That's great.
It is.
That's the
Well, it's
best way.
kind of it's.
Well, what it is though, Joe, I think it mixes up who you can get on.
Yes.
Because if you've got like you've done podcasts before, haven't you? Right?
Yeah,
so you get
yeah.
a bit more confident about it. We've had people on who wouldn't have even dared think about doing it.
Yeah.
So we've had to tease them on, and then we'll do this.
Yeah.
We'll be 25 minutes in, and they'll go, right, well, I feel relaxed now. When does it start? And we go,
You're
it
like,
started
this-
25
this
minutes
is
ago.
it?
That's it.
That's the way
Perfect.
to do it.
It's the thing. It's just every podcast ever. I've heard some shocking ones. I get loads of views, and I've heard some great ones that don't do
Yeah.
a lot. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things. You just got to do it.
Yeah.
But we just want to sit and talk to people, don't we?
Yeah.
Get to know people,
Interested people.
interesting
Interesting
people.
local people.
Yes, exactly. That's the
the whole
point.
point.
Of which
isn't it?
we
'Cause
have
no one's
many,
doing
don't
anything.
we?
And we've got loads of them, but I don't think anybody's ever done it.
Yeah.
In the northeast.
Well, not because we don't have a topic, I guess. Like we could have been a food and drink podcast, which is kind of when we
Yes,
first
yeah.
started. That just got sidelined to the questions at the end.
Yeah.
It's a menu
And
question.
it brings you back in the
Yeah.
room with some questions.
leans
Other than
into
that.
It's the
questions,
locality, isn't it? And the sort of
Yeah.
the pride in the region that I would describe it as. It's like when I look for your podcast, I know that I'm looking for either people that I think, oh, I recognise them, but I don't know much about them and I want to know about them, or I don't recognise them at all, but I know that you'll have. It's about the way you select your guests, I think, more than
It is
the questions almost.
It is, but it's
Yeah.
because we all meet the same people all the time. And we meet versions of who they are now and what they
Yeah.
do and what you're known for and what you do, which we'll come on to.
Yeah.
But we always want to get to the, how did you arrive at that point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, who are you amongst all
Yeah.
of that? Because you'll have different versions of yourself.
Yeah,
all
that's
the
it.
time
It's the
in
person
business.
behind it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it is because, I mean, as you well know, lots of business podcasts that have similar people on all of the time. But there's no kind of general podcasts about everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that's the point of us. We just get to know who you are. We can talk about the serious, but we can talk about the silly as well.
Yeah.
And it's the light and dark of everything.
Yeah.
But there's loads of crossovers, as you can see on the wall, with the films and all that kind of stuff. They've been on, and
Yeah.
then we've created things
Yeah.
after they've been on. Hence the Colemans
Yeah.
out and about, So
And we will talk silly. Just before you got here, we were talking about dreams.
You were talking about your dreams, yeah.
Just get that for the podcast.
We should have, you're going into your deep dark secrets of Chris cries in every dream. And I was like, I don't think I've ever cried in a dream.
Cry in your dreams.
Barely cry in real life, never mind
Really?
dreams.
Were you crying when you woke up?
Yeah, because my dog had like a violin in its leg.
But I'm like, how's it? Right, so for me,
I'm not expecting that, really,
it was
I've got to
traumatic.
say.
It was horrible.
but you were like, is it the arm? I think it's the
It was
neck.
it was the
neck.
arm,
It's the
but it was
neck.
how abstract it became. We're thinking, why do dreams develop in that way?
It's so.
So we had,
Why
we
the
had a
so
dog
weird, isn't
leg
it?
with a violin sticking out of it, which then turned into a bat wing. Right?
Yeah,
I've got no idea where that came from. Was the dog injured recently? I don't know.
yeah. I do. Yeah,
I think I wonder if our dreams are getting weirder because we're taking in all these little fragments of like little snippets of information from like YouTube and Instagram, and I wonder if I'd love to know if our dreams are getting more strange because we're taking in so much stuff in any day, aren't we? It's like it must store in your brain somewhere.
You not do that in your work. Like
Well, that's exactly where my brain goes now. Is like, oh, is this is it a trend? Our dreams getting weirder.
because everything's like
That's
an
my
Easter egg. Like so, so I had 3
Yeah.
bad dreams last night. Right, one of them was about somebody putting a cigarette in my ear.
Oh.
but the other way
Right,
around.
the other way around, not burning me.
Like
just put the other way around, so the smoke was coming out.
Comedy
Like that.
kind of style.
And if you look up there on the board,
Yeah.
there's a sticker with a Greg's sausage roll smoking.
Oh,
I was looking at that all day yesterday.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Right, so that was number 1.
I was surprised it
And
wasn't.
there's the dog,
sausage rolls out, yeah.
Batwing, right, with the bandage, which was actually a COVID mask, right? And then the third one was World War III, and somebody dropping a bomb on Holt's Yard. That was my last of my trilogy of bad dreams.
Were you just squeezing them all in? Were you just squeezing like
I don't know.
a month of dreams
I think
into
it's
one
because I
night?
went to the gym last night.
All right, so it's open a doorway in your mind.
It's a portal
Yeah,
It is a portal, a dream portal. Yeah.
into a part of your brain that is very strange.
Okay. That's an excuse why I don't go to the gym anymore. Why? Because I was just getting vivid dreams. I don't know. Yeah, it was ruining me, yeah.
But in your work, does your mind just gravitate towards? Would you straight away start to think,
Always
why?
pattern
Why is
spot.
that?
Always.
Pattern spot?
Pattern spotting. That's what it is. It's just that is like fundamentally the job of a trend forecaster. You're looking for patterns. Like, is that part of a movement? Have I heard 5 people say that in the last week or 3 days? Like, you're just all the time trying to sort of braille culture and conversation and.
Were you always like that? Were you just really curious when you were younger?
Just a weird child. Yeah, yeah. I was always like that, and I think I didn't know trend forecasting existed.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I didn't know until I was 20-ish, really. So I didn't know where I could put that curiosity and those skills, but I was always sort of piecing those bits together and wondering, like, why do people do that? And, there's not loads of space for that kind of curiosity in school. So you end up putting it into kind of the creative, like the arts.
Because it's everywhere, isn't it? It's
Because
like
in maths you
behavioural
can't go, well,
science and all kinds.
why all the time? It's not really,
Yeah.
School is nowhere to house that type of skill set where you can just
It's not
ask
because
loads of
it's so
questions.
multidisciplinary. It could have been psychology. It could be sociology. It could
it's
be
a social
everywhere.
science. It's, it's like human behaviours. I think that really links into it is how come we all suddenly start doing something, or how come these 10 people start doing something this month and then 50 people do it next month and then 300,000 people do it in 6 months' time. That's how trends build. They start somewhere, and my brain is just programmed, probably now because I've nurtured it that way over so many years, but it's programmed to, whenever something new happens, to go, is that a thing? What's happening there?
Does that curiosity... Sorry, go on.
It just opened my mind. I think I'm exactly the same, just I haven't made it into a business.
Yes, well, come and join us.
It's unbelievable, that, because you're constantly analysing everything all of the time.
Yeah.
Like, even patterns, and I was thinking about how people walk today and stuff like that. It's kind of like, is it I'm
Why
going
you
to
see
like
the same walk everywhere? With certain
why?
people?
Well, it's the same walk, but it's the same cadence, but it's the same build of the person. Do you know what I mean? And it's like the endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, all of the kind of the genetic makeups, and then also I go into with the storyline stuff is ADHD, OCD, addiction traits, and all these kind of things. So, like, I'm on all the time thinking about that stuff, and I'm trying to like figure out patterns. But by interviewing people, I've seen the patterns, and I'm getting the patterns, so I'm easy to guess the patterns. And when I say, "Is it this and that?" and they go, "Actually, how did you know that?" I'm like, it's just
observation.
Personality traits.
It is.
It really is.
You're observing.
And it's becomes a science in a way, but then
Yeah.
you're starting like to understand like the human traits of people, and there's only certain categories I think there is
Yes,
as well. So
yeah.
fascinating though.
It is
It's
fascinating.
so
Great, isn't it?
interesting.
Can
It's
you apply that curiosity to any topic though? I mean, like,
generally speaking, yeah. I mean, my sort of territory is like the future of life at home. So that's in my day job. It's all about how do we behave at home? How do families want to raise their children within the home? How do we decorate our homes? How do we pick the next colour that we're going to paint our walls? So it can be decor or behaviour based. So it's very, very linked to the home. But actually, because it's such an innate trait, I think, of my brain, I do it for all the time for everything. I'm always, preventing myself from setting up a new business because I've spotted a new change in something that's completely outside my field. So it's a little bit lethal sometimes because you think, oh, there's something in that.
it's compulsive thinking.
It
isn't
is,
it?
yeah.
It never ever stops.
Yeah.
Do people fear when you walk in a room? Go, hang on, has Joe got a clipboard?
Sometimes people do. And I don't forecast. I used to work in fashion, but I don't work in fashion trends anymore. But people immediately sort of associate trends with fashion because there's such a strong link between them. And sometimes I've definitely been in meetings before where people have said, what do you think of my tie? I picked it out, especially today, because I thought you would like it. And I heard you say that like green was on trend or something like that. So sometimes people do kind
You ever
of
just
we
cut them in half and went, it was yesterday.
I'm like that was
Yeah,
6 months ago.
Yeah, well, but it's one of those things because you say we did cross all of this yesterday with the gym culture and cafe gym culture and run culture with cafe and crossovers as well, and how people are drinking less and younger people are doing more of the kind of active thing, and then the high rocks thing because it's working together with people. So
and we're looking for that sense of community.
It is, but as the community builds, and there's pockets of communities now, so it's all very much small based stuff. Very much like individuals are doing these things. And then we talk about matcha and then pistachio, and it's like all the things you're talking about.
You're exactly right. That's my job, is to figure out those things before they've happened.
But when do you find because my background's food and drink, right?
Yeah.
When does it go? When can you see it go from something that might or might not stick when it goes from trend to an actual? It's going to stick as a habit.
Yeah, that is interesting because I can connect those dots, and my team can connect those dots, and we can pull together. I mean, when you're dealing with the future, you're never going to find loads of like data points. And because we advise like corporate brands, large multi-million-dollar companies, obviously they want as much evidence as possible before they go after something.
Yeah.
And there is an amount of faith they have to have in our work. We have to justify our suggestions, recommendations, our forecast as much as possible. They have to have the guts to execute it. And those two things both have to happen. So we can come up with the next big thing, and a company could say, we just aren't in a place where we can execute that trend. Maybe we'll do it later. Maybe we'll wait for the trend to develop a little bit more so we can have some more confidence that the market will respond to it. And then it can explode in 2 weeks. It can explode in 6 months. It might take 5 years. The timing is really tricky to pin down.
Must be a nervy thing though, Joe.
It is.
Because I know it's not comparable, but I used to forecast food and drink.
Yeah.
We used to import stuff, or we'd look at weather and conditions and prices changing and what might be happening in geopolitics and how it might, like what's happening now. But you always had that, ultimately the decision sat with me when I'd sign a contract. And all the indicators that I've looked at, and it's like looking at the market and about wind, if it's going to cancel on Saturday, and you're looking at all the different things and different evidence sources. You always got a little niggle where you're thinking, oh my God, I hope I'm right.
And because we're advising some of the world's biggest organisations, companies, brands, the big decision sits with them actually. So we have a really big responsibility to make sure our forecasts are really as accurate as possible, but also as well researched as possible. We have to have complete faith in the work that we've done, because they have to go and make often a multi-million-pound decision about a product that gets made,
I guess you've
manufactured.
got to sort of have a disclaimer on that as well, though, because I guess you've always got to reiterate, this is a forecast.
Yes, you do. Yeah. And you also have to, I think the most important thing that we would say to a company is, it's not just about me painting a picture of, my skill is not that I can see a future that other people can't see. That's not a thing. Yeah. We're all just human beings. But I think for a brand or retailer, they have to be distinctive. They have to stand out. They have to choose their preferred future. And that's really what it's about. You've got to kind of braille the market, figure out where the consumer is going. But any brand or retailer has to figure out what do they want to stand for, what is their preferred future, and you've got to meet those touch points at the same place, really.
Yeah. It's almost like you're just giving them the tools to slide over the table and go, look, there they are. It's your choice to move forward. So don't come back at me and start blaming me, but always going to, because you know what corporations are like. You've got to point the finger at somebody somewhere, haven't they?
Yeah.
But you could just miss it. How can you predict these things, or can you predict these things? And are trends good or bad? I don't know. I'm kind of confused.
I mean, prediction. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with the word prediction, and you can predict to a certain degree, over the course of 6 to 12 months. So you can. There's a place for prediction.
Yeah.
AI actually is quite a good tool for close range prediction, providing nothing changes, and that's like the key phrase, because things change all the time, and so you need to have a lens on that change. But so prediction will get you so far, and sometimes companies will come to us and say, please forecast and predict a future for us in 12 months, 24 months, sometimes 5 years, 10 years. It can vary. And actually, the further out you go, once you get to 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, that's not really about predicting. That is about choosing a preferred future.
Yeah.
What are your company values? What do you stand for? Who is your customer now? Is that customer still going to be, is that a customer that's going to be just 10 years older and a little bit changed by then? Or will you have to have an entirely new customer base by then?
The thing is, the long-term stuff could also be like a placebo effect to go, it's coming, but you're planting the seed into their head and they're going to implement that action anyway.
Well, like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. You go, no, not yet. And you go, well, if you keep doing it and it'll become a thing, then they're actually creating that trend because they're forcing it out there.
And and trends can be sort of manifested and created in that way. But at the same time, if society, if the audience isn't ready for it or isn't going in that direction, it won't work. So you can't just create a trend and get everybody on the back of it. It has to align with where the future consumer is headed.
Yeah. That's why I see some like marketing campaigns that just don't land.
It's why we have such a problem with some of the environmental things that we try and push, because we kind of want people to be greener. We want them to recycle. But actually, it's really difficult to do that because the consumer, the general consumer, has other pull factors that steer them away from that, like convenience, mass consumption. Yeah. So it's really hard to persuade people to do a thing that we want them to do.
Yeah, but governments use your type of thinking, do you think?
They're not. They
don't have to.
They do. They don't use prediction so much and forecasting, but they use the sort of the further end of that, which is foresight and futures work. So there are a couple of sort of distinctions, but they do use foresight. They do have, like, for example, the Greek government has got like a whole foresight division inside of their government. So yes, it's more common to have like chief futures sort of officers inside governments and businesses.
Imagine who do you work for? Foresight division.
Yeah.
I'm Chief Futures Officer.
Yeah.
Got to have a shield on the
CFO.
top, aren't you?
I'm telling you, these are not people in like silver jumpsuits, I promise. They are like, these are real jobs.
I think you're right talking about things
really
that kind of don't work out. I mean, the metaverse, for instance, putting billions into something that just didn't work and didn't work out, but trying to force something that people didn't want in the first place, but thinking that people wanted, if I push it out, is enough because I have the power to push it out.
Yes.
I think there's a thing there as well.
Definitely. And I think that metaverse thing, that's really interesting because it's in recent memory. There was, things like Bitcoin, the metaverse. There were a couple of things that happened at the same time that all seemed like, we are about to embrace this new chapter
NFTs,
of the future and step into it. And of course, little groups of people, there are people who became billionaires through Bitcoin. There are people who live predominantly in the metaverse, but they are gamers and they are, they're in a very particular realm, but I think the expectation was that everyday person was going to start walking around with headsets on and live in the metaverse.
I mentioned Back to the Future earlier. I think it's because we've always been hardwired as kids to think as the future is this like place. Like we see it as a leap, not as sort of iterations of change.
I think that's a really important point. And if you ask somebody, if you look at the vision of the future in the 60s, we can all sort of remember what that looked like. And then there was a future of the vision in the 80s through media and film and books and stuff like that. Sci-fi plays actually quite a big part in how we anticipate the future is going to be. So literature and fiction it does play a part in shaping what we expect.
The future is. those lampposts have got LED lights in now.
Well, that's my frustration. Is the future.
There's a computer in your pocket. We didn't predict there's a computer in your pocket, which is a camera and a and a Walkman and all of these things inside your pocket, and a video player and a TV. Yeah. It's everything in your pocket. You couldn't have predicted that.
Steve Jobs predicted that, though.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Well, Steve Jobs created that vision of the future. Okay. So he had that for me is one of the greatest sort of foresight thinkers, because he was able to see. He didn't sort of, back to your point about iteration, he didn't sort of iterate and say, well, he did in a way. He said, we've got this technology and these partners, how do we move this idea forward? But he had the end goal and the idea of what the technology could achieve, and then use the technology to...
how many things you could have in your pocket.
It was the iPod, wasn't it? It's 1,000 songs in your pocket or something. That was, an incredible marketing, but an incredible visionary in that business to say... This is where I think we can take it. Yeah,
because we had phones and we had the iPods, then it's just that combined together, isn't it? Really? So
yeah.
Oh, you want a rabbit hole in my head now?
Welcome to my world.
Well, because it makes me think, because you just said Walkman, right? So why is there such a? I mean, I guess this is every generation, but right now there's a real hunger around sort of retro or leaning backwards.
Yes.
So everybody's buying vinyl. What's happening in the human brain to want to take people backwards?
Nostalgia.
Baggy jeans in 90s is in, isn't it?
Yeah, nostalgia. Yeah. And every generation has a nostalgia for a past, a certain element of their past. So what you tend to find is, there are, again, loops and patterns with this. What you tend to find is so at the minute, it'll be sort of millennials will want to look back on their childhood, which is why we've had these kind of soft toy plushies and things like Care Bears have come back. And, there's all sorts of like little nostalgic toys. The reason the Barbie film was such a big success is because people look back on their experience of having a Barbie doll as a child. So there are all sorts of sort of indicators in culture about which generation is looking back onto which episode of their life.
Is that about people being, God... Where do you go from here? Is that about people not being happy with the now?
Yeah, it is. It can be.
And looking over the shoulder. And
so there is a cycle to it. Like generally, every generation will look back with nostalgia. There's a 90s thing at the minute, which blows my mind because I feel like that was 5 minutes ago and my teenage experience. But, when people are saying, we're going back to this sort of 90s fashion trend now for maybe 16-year-olds, it's really interesting because... it's their parents' generations effectively that were teenagers then.
I kept all my stuff. You could put it on Vinted.
Yeah.
I still haven't. It's in your mum's loft, I think. It's somewhere. But it's it is because clothing as well. I was thinking about this last week. Like, what have you just got to turf out all the other clothes just because it's not in fashion anymore?
And nobody does that, do they?
Yeah, nobody does that. No,
nobody does that.
You just hang on to them until they're fashionable.
But what's interesting to me is that nobody does that. But then, what is it that makes us suddenly go, oh? I've never bought something in that colour before, or like that's the T-shirt that I always buy and the style I always buy, but the colour's different. And I think I'm actually feel okay to purchase that in a different colour. And there's so many things that inform that. We tend to think that is our own personal decision, but actually depending on how directional you are in any given field. So if you're a directional fashion person, you'll feel really comfortable going and doing something completely new and different. You don't need to see it in a magazine. You don't need to see it on your favourite influencer. You don't need to see it on your family and friends. You will just go and buy that new item and wear it with confidence. Yeah. Whereas the further down the kind of... we sort of group people into different sections, and as you go into like early and late majority, which is really mass market, people need a lot more persuasion. So that at that point you'd need to have seen it, if it was a new colour, you need to have seen it in a magazine, on your favourite celebrity, on a neighbour or a friend, even down to paint colours. Where would you get an idea for a paint colour? People go, well, I saw that in my sister-in-law's house, and actually she seems to have a finger on the pulse. So actually I think maybe I'll go and get some tester pots around that shade. So there's a filtration system that we're not massively aware of. Once you sort of switched onto it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know the first time that I saw that and I thought that was weird, or I'm not ready for that trend. And then as time moves on, it kind of... you get more and more used to it. If you think about something like skinny jeans, I always look back to that. When people first started wearing skinny jeans, everyone was like, not for me, thanks, no way. And now, you would probably say skinny jeans has reached like late majority, and actually, like you said, the 90s baggy jeans have come back for those sort of more early adopters. And that's starting to filter through. And actually, you know, and it goes with like colours, like jeans are a really good example because there's colours, there's shapes, styles that you can kind of follow how that moves through society and how prepared are you to move with the next trend? Would you feel silly tomorrow if you walked in?
But I think it depends on like how you walk around and how you feel, how you look as well, because, you know, we tried, it doesn't really kind of work out that way.
And just I always don't like.
I always say just because I sell it doesn't make it say you got to wear it.
Yeah.
And it's the skinny trouser suit with the loafers and no socks.
That's what I was just going to say.
It churns my stomach that was a thing.
Yes, yeah.
Because I
that was
do
a
not
very
think
particular...
that should ever be a thing. And no man should have.
Think, no way.
But you've got some kind of dad board walking around with these things. Hang on. Look in the mirror before you leave the house, and it's not for you. It's not just because they sell it. You don't have to wear it.
Yeah, right? But could that be a lens that you have now that maybe you didn't have that when you were 20? So I think as you get older, you change. You know, you kind of go, I've seen this a few times now. I've seen that change happens when you're younger. The change is really exciting because you've not seen so much change.
Well, I think younger you can get away with it because you are wearing everything that everybody else is wearing as well. Do you know what I mean? So everyone tends to gravitate. It's like white fox hoodies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In the like pre-teens, teens, that kind of thing. So they're everywhere, and it's a basic item as well.
Yeah.
And then it becomes black leggings, and why does all the teenagers wear black puffer jackets?
Yeah.
And then it's GD Sports, and it's kind of...
I think that's so fascinating, that whole, you know, how long... have we had teenagers wearing effectively tracksuits?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
You know, I mean, my son's really interested in fashion, and I took him to Manchester for the weekend, and I said, let's have a look in some of the, you know, the Harvey Nichols, and they've got some really top end shops. And I thought, I'll show him what the menswear floor looks like there, because my background was menswear, and I thought, I'll show him some of the cuts of the clothing and really introduce him to how the fabrics are different to what you can buy in H&M and M&S and stuff like that. And it was wall-to-wall tracksuits. And I was like, right. So top to bottom, that market is full of the same jersey, probably made in the same factories, in the same cut. There's nothing really special about the way those garments are made. We could set up a factory right here and now and make those exact same garments dead easy. So the brand carries a lot of weight, because actually the brand's what matters most. If you're going to buy a pair of joggers that are £90, when actually they're probably worth maybe £6 or £7 in real terms, the brand carries all the weight for that.
The brand does,
but there's something really interesting to me, and it goes back to that point before where you were saying, are we drawn to nostalgia because the sort of socioeconomic impact that we feel through 24-hour news culture is influencing our brains to the point that we just feel like, God, aren't we living in terrible times? That sort of influences the way that we show up in fashion, the colour choices we make. You know, it filters through everything. And I think that is really a massive
sort of
part of it.
premiumising things that we would have otherwise considered as just everyday.
I think that kind of
thing's a really interesting one, I think. But the white fox stuff is as well, because I often looked at that when it first came out and thought,
why?
Like, that could have literally just been printed.
What's special about
down
it?
the street?
But you can say the same thing about Represent. Do you know what I mean? It's a black hoodie with a white, but it goes across the shoulder, and it's an oversized hoodie. Everyone wears oversized stuff. It doesn't, even now they would still wear oversized stuff. I don't think that thing will go out of fashion, but it'll still be an item which you wear all of the time. It's just you might favour another thing over that one. And
it is that with clothing as well, it's like tribalism, it's belonging. It's, you know, when those kids go and wear the grey tracksuit and go and hang out with their other friends wearing the grey tracksuit, it's clothing, as it has always done for all of us, gives us a sense of like
identity,
which tribe do you belong to, and it is such an interesting kind of...
Were you wearing when you were a teenager?
Well, the thing is, my
trespass jacket.
No, because my fashion sense was led by music choices.
Yes,
and I was into 60s and stuff like that. So there's a lot of us. We went to like second-hand shops, and you wore like granddad jackets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is sort of in now, you know, when you look like you're being dressed from the Lost Property box. It's kind of that, where it's all mishmash and kind of different colours and things. And then they've got like a 90s mustache and things. And that's what the trend is now, but you can get away with it because you're young, because everybody's wearing the same thing. If I rocked up like that, you go, what you doing? You know? Yeah. It's a different thing. And back then was obviously led by the music culture. It was baggy jeans, 20-inch bottoms. It was how wide can you get your bottoms? And it was 22, it was 24. They were massive. They covered your shoes, but we wore DMs with it. Now it's a pair of Gazelles. Yes. Do you know what I mean? Then an acid wash and a high-waisted, you know? And then it's
I can still remember that.
hoodie.
And you're right, the 60s influence for us as teenagers in the 90s is probably the same now as teenagers who are 16 looking back at the 90s, but they're probably not I don't know, but I would imagine they're not probably getting the flavour of some of that 60s stuff that was coming through and some of the music that was 90s music. You know, even if you think, you know, all of those kinds of the sort of baggy music and then what turned into Britpop, a lot of that was sort of really infused with like a British 60s music culture. I mean, Oasis, loved the Beatles, so that was a complete link there.
But I think in our day, the Stone Roses changed the game, especially in the 90s.
Yeah,
the baggy and the hoodies and the acid kind of look and all that kind of stuff. Tie-dye was back in.
Yeah.
But it was all of that. And then the bucket hats, they kind of introduced a kind of cultural icon identity. Do you know
I've got such like vivid and like happy memories of that time just through those items that you mentioned there. It's amazing, isn't it, when you can connect just a simple item of clothing back to like, God, I so remember like the Inspiral carpets and all that whole music scene at the time felt like a new, felt like this is our music. It's all, it really did. Yeah. And to see that again, I think a few years later with the Britpop thing, that felt the same, but I was an older teenager then, whereas I can remember being a young teenager and thinking, you know, like you say, just that kind of early music, it was just an incredible sound.
But it is then you're going into the Seattle scene where you've got Pearl Jam and you've got Nirvana, and then it was like the checked over the hoodie, the shirts, the open shirts as well,
and the whole grunge movement look, then, which I can remember.
Ripped jeans.
I remember my parents sort of, being mortified that I would go and buy like second-hand ripped jeans. Like you say, there was a lot of second-hand, especially denim, wasn't there? That was where the good denim was and all those second-hand shops. And saying you spent like £30 on ripped, worn jeans. They thought I was out of my mind to do that.
But there used to be a shop with like old second-hand jeans and really wide in Newcastle. I forget
Flip.
What it was called.
It called Flip?
Flip was there.
No, I think it was YPM. Was it YPM Mall? There was one called, I think it was YPM Mall. And you used to just get, and they've 22 inch, 24 inch. Because me, Dawson, who we've had on, his brother Neil, we used to all knock around together. It was like, who's got the widest bottoms with the gazelles on? So it's like, it was that style. The hoodie was always in. And then one of the lads was wearing a bucket hat. It was all that kind of, that era. But it was all influenced by music all the time.
And there were fewer subcultures. So there were probably like, there would be that gang and there might be like another, there would be other groups that you'd be able to identify if you looked at them like that. I can tell what kind of music they listened to. It was very music driven. Whereas now it's so fragmented. There was, teenagers can tap into culture from other countries. I mean, my youngest son is into like Japanese anime, comics, and you can tap into culture from all over the world and connect with people from different cultures from all over. So it's much more fragmented. And in that respect, it's even more incredible that some of our teenagers do still look the same when they're dressing, because actually they've never had more inspiration than now.
It sounds so positive when you say it out loud, when you talk about influence and cultures opening up and kids getting more access to more information, but actually it has caused fragmentation, hasn't it? A bit of confusion.
Yeah, I think so. It's a real double-edged sword, I think, technology, isn't it? Or at least when I say technology, I think specifically social media. I think there's two sides to that. And in my job where we're forecasting for toy brands and family brands, it's all about trying to paint that picture for them of both the sides for that. Where are the negatives and the dangers? What might happen next in terms of negative impact of technology on children, and the positives as well in terms of the incredible connection to information that they can have. But it's definitely both sides of it.
But how fast is our trends moving forward? Because you must be like leapfrogging now.
Yeah.
It might sit around for a longer period of time back in the day, but now it might be like 3 months, not 6 months or a year.
I think there's still a blend. I think we notice, like, you can get a trend to market quicker than you used to be able to. And that's due to manufacturing processes, so we can make something quicker, but also it's due to influence, so influence can spread quicker because of social media. So those two factors mean that we can get something to popularity really quickly. But also there are things that get to popularity really quickly and surprisingly stick around. So there might be a sort of fad, then you think, oh, that's a sort of flash in the pan, but actually they do have legs and it kind of goes on for a while. Especially in the kids space where you get like things like fidget spinners or, there's all sorts of like little, like little fidget toys and stuff like that. You tend to think, but probably 10 years ago you would have said that is a fad. Well, actually it's a huge multi-billion-dollar industry now.
Yeah, so clothing with it built in.
Yes.
Fidget spinners and cuffs and stuff like that.
And that couldn't exist without us having this broader embracing of neurodiversity. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have the understanding of brains working in different ways. You know, we now have classrooms where there's a tub of fidget toys in the classroom for the children who need to fidget to help them concentrate. So we didn't have that 10, 15 years ago. So the culture has to change in order that the appetite is there for a trend to succeed. Everything moves with it. It's an ecosystem. So we can't kind of plonk a trend into society and go, let's just hope we've created something that everybody wants. Everything has to sort of work perfectly together, and there's no way to predict that those ingredients are all going to gel at the same time or that consumers are going to pick up on it at the same time.
I've got a really childish question. So, right, when we had Kenny Atkinson on, and we're asking, like, you know, chefs who, you know, operate at a certain level, they go home at 1 o'clock in the morning, and, you know, they have like a tin of beans or something like that cold. Is there like an equivalent for you where I'm thinking that when you're doing your home decor, and we're thinking you do all this trend forecast, or do you ever just go home and go,
oh, yeah.
You know what it is? Chuck a bit of Magnolia on, I can't be bothered.
You know, you're so right. It's like everybody, there's a phrase for that, isn't it? Is it the cobbler's kids' shoes or something like that? Or, but yeah, of course. And it's like, you know, people do, especially working in home interiors, people have an expectation that, you know, your home is going to be permanently living to this very high vibe. And sometimes I walk in and, you know, I've got 2 kids, 17 and 10. So there's always like shoes everywhere, and it doesn't seem to matter how much I invest in shoe cabinets to put shoes away. There are still yet more shoes on the floor. So yeah, it's a home. I live in a home, you know, it's a home, and it doesn't just belong to me. And it can't, I learned quite early on, it can't just be my expression of taste throughout the home, because it turns out, you know, when I walked into my living room yesterday, my son was in there with his friend and I could hear them jumping around. All my lovely cushions from Heels were like on the floor. They've made a pit of cushions to jump on, and they have no respect for my lovely ideas. So I've always loved like creating physical environments and colour, and I've always loved that. I've always had a real creative streak for that. It's not respected in my house
kids
at all.
Equalise everything.
Yeah, they really do, and they make you realise what's actually important in life. I think, because I think, why would you not chuck a load of cushions on the floor and make a big jump pit out of them, like they were having the time of their lives? But
back in our day, you wouldn't be allowed to do that, though.
No.
Oh, nah.
You can't even sit in the arm of a chair, back in my day.
Oh, no, you couldn't.
I had things on the arms of the chair so they wouldn't wear down.
My grandma had that for the back.
Yeah.
You know, don't put your head back, just wait a second.
Don't put your head back.
Yeah. But doesn't that tells you a lot about, you would think that probably, I bet that sofa lasted 30, 40, 50 years. Maybe you bought a sofa.
It was born out of poverty.
Yeah, you would have a sofa, and there would be one sofa for a lifetime, not one sofa until you change the decor scheme.
You didn't Klarna a carpet, did you, in the 1980s?
Yeah,
1990s.
it's changed.
We've still got a 2-seater in the back end, which is our first couch that we bought. And it must be about 16 years old now.
Yeah.
And it's still there. Still got the cat claws, because the cat's no longer here, but the couch is still there with his kind of imprint on the cat claw on the edges.
Memories.
Well, it is. It's that. But it was always the best couch. Do you know what I mean? It was always that. Because she hates the one we've got now. You know, it's one of those. It's never as good as that one that we had. I'm like, yeah, but you got to buy a new one. But
that taps at the nostalgic brain, though. Yeah, but you could actually sit on it and be like that, and it wouldn't be comfortable at all. No, but it would be in your head.
Sometimes you just get one that just kind of works, don't you? But you can't. Yeah, you can't replace it sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. We don't kind of just rotate couches. We're like, it's a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
It's an investment as a couch.
And that's what I think most people go into it thinking is, I want this to last as long as possible, and I'm going to think really carefully about this decision, because it's a lot of money.
It is,
and it's it's maybe even got to move properties if you rent in a place and you think, actually maybe in 5 years' time we might be buying somewhere. So it's got to, you're putting those decisions through a lot of filters to make your mind up about something. And there are other things that are less costly, like a tin of paint is less costly, but the investment of time to decorate a room is quite big. So you don't want to paint a whole room and then go, well, I spent all weekend doing that and I hate it because it's now too dark and I wanted it lighter. So there's the investment, cash investment, and then there's the investment of time. And I think when you decorate in a home, you kind of, maybe something like a table lamp that might be 25 or 35 pounds. You can let yourself go a little bit with that decision. But the big pieces for the home, people do put a lot of thought and effort into that. And we have to as well. We work with loads of big furniture manufacturers, and we're trying to inject that consumer thinking all the time. We don't just try and get a company to change for the sake of change. We want them to be in the mindset of the consumer, thinking, who's the person that walks through the door or goes online to search for this, and what are they looking for?
Yeah.
What would
I'm haunted by my sofa. Honestly, have you seen my sofa? You in my house?
Yeah.
It's awful.
The new one or the old one?
No, the old one. We tried it, right? It was such an investment, right? It's so heavy. It's this colour, but it's long and it's quite deep. And we got it before COVID, and the middle caster snapped off. And then we got this furniture repair guy to come in, and I was like, I just want to get it. Said to him, just tell my partner it won't get fixed, we've got to get rid of it. He went, I'm not going to say that because it's a really solid frame. But it's like Trigger's broom, right? We've had to, the amount of money it's cost to just move it around, right? So it's a big thing, and it just, all of the angles don't work on it. So if you try to get it through a door, which is next to a stairwell, or through another door where there's a door adjacent to that door, we had to get removal companies to come and just work it out. I had a guy there for 4 hours. Tried it this way, wouldn't work. Tried it that way, took the casters off. Tried it the other way. It's a nightmare. Can't stand it.
I would have just cut
Anybody
it
want a
off.
sofa?
Yeah. I would have just cut it off and be done with it. I've come in one day, sorry. I've killed it. I've killed the couch.
There'll be somebody somewhere that would, like, if you speak, the sort of feng shui methods, somebody would be saying it's giving you bad energy if you don't like it, and you've got to get, because
it's giving me bad
energy.
energy.
That's why you're having dreams about cigarettes poking out your ears. The sofa.
It's the sofa.
Yeah. Surprised you haven't
got
got
casters
casters on
Now
your
I'm going to have a dream about the sofa at night, don't you?
It's
It's
casters
going
on
to
your
eat me up or
feet. You're going to
something.
be like roller skates.
Going down a really steep hill in
you
San
can't
Francisco
stop.
with casters for feet.
San Francisco.
I can't stop.
Just going past trams and that.
But every sofa I sit on just eats me up like that in the back. That'll happen.
I love colour combinations. You're talking about like where you're influenced by.
Yeah.
Because our living room was influenced by watching Mad Men.
Yes. Yeah.
Petrol blue and mustard.
Yes.
So those two colour combos were really nice together.
Yeah.
And then we added a little light grey to lighten it up a touch.
See, that is a trend in
adjacent
action.
walls and things. So I love that.
Yeah.
And even when you're out and you go, autumn colours.
Yeah.
The oranges and the browns, and the orange with the green and that brown with the grey. That's a nice thing.
I
that would
do
work
that
together.
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I'm always doing colour combos, and actually I think it's like so much part of my personality. When I was pregnant with my eldest son, if I saw a colour combination that I didn't like, it gave me morning sickness. It was so intense.
Really?
Yeah, I can remember being at a petrol station one day and I saw this guy wearing this outfit and I was like, that does not go with his skin tone. I was like, I'm going to have to go home. I'm going to be sick.
Hazard, morning
yes,
sickness.
really ill, just from colour combinations. I was, this is terrible. So I'm the same. And when I first set out in my career, that was kind of, once I realised I wanted to be a trend forecaster, the colour bit was like a massive part of that. I thought, I want to work in colour. I want to put colours together. It just felt like I felt like I'd been doing that since I was a child. I can remember cutting up my mum's like Laura Ashley. She used to get like a Laura Ashley catalogue that would come like once a year or something. I used to say to her, when you're finished with it, can I have it? And she'd say, yes, well, it's just arrived. You can't cut it up yet. I haven't looked through it. And then the day would come where she would gift me this free catalogue, and I used to sit with my scissors and cut it all up and make little things out of it, and cut little clothes out of it and make outfits and put the colours together. I just loved it. So even as a kid, I would do that.
I was at art college and I studied fashion for a year.
Did you?
We had to do that with catalogues. You're cutting things up and matching things. And
you put it in
collage.
you know what I mean? So it's inspiration. You got to do your inspiration thing,
Yeah.
and then you go, right, that's inspired me to do that. You know?
Yes.
So it's a part of the process, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. It's a good way of getting your ideas down as well and just making sure everything works.
Yeah, because I watch my daughter and she makes these little bracelets and they're putting the little beads together.
Yeah.
But the colour combinations as well, because even I'll stop, and we've been to Scotland last week and we went in this little shop and little trinkets. I'm like, that's lovely, that, isn't it? I'm like, picked up this bracelet because I'm like, there's like a brass with like a pink and then there was actually a green in it. I'm like, that's quite nice. I never thought about that colour combination.
Yeah,
I was like, have a look at this. What do you think of this? Do you know what I mean? And I can talk to her about that because she kind of gets it. She's more artistic that way.
And sometimes I'll photograph things like that if I see them out and about, thinking, I don't know when I'm going to need that, but at some point that might And we've got an office in town, and actually the colour palette for that office in town, I didn't really realise, but I'd been collecting images on Pinterest and on Instagram, and I had a whole folder in my phone of just images that I was picking up and collecting. And when we went to refurb the office, we worked with an interior designer, but I was like, I know what the colour palette is going to be. And then last year I wrote a book, and I was playing around with colour palettes for the cover. And unbeknown to me, subconsciously, I'd obviously picked some of the colours that were in the palette from decorating the office. And it's just, it was just very deeply embedded in there. These colours I was like, I know exactly what it needs to be.
Our WhatsApp group when we first started the podcast.
No, but I sent you
group chat.
Yeah, but I sent you something the other day. Because there was like this image of a bull, but it was like a sketch.
Yeah.
It was gold on the black. I'm like, oh,
nice.
I just just something stands out and pops to you. I'm like, actually, I quite like that combination.
It's part of how you sort of like, I mean, as a business owner, like you've got to create a vision for where the business is going, but that's all you're doing is you're sort of envisioning, and that's effectively what trend forecasting is. You're starting to envision something, you're mapping it out, you don't quite yet know what it is, but at some point those things will have relevance for you, being drawn towards them. And you just don't yet know where that's going to go.
You know what I was thinking? That'd be good for King of Mates.
What, the gold?
Gold on black. Tremendous, because he's the king of mates.
He can do gold. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Got some merchandise coming.
I like it.
Design board. But that's the thing, because we can do obviously the white on the black, and then I think they're a little like a nod, like a special item, gold.
I think gold will look good as gold as well.
I think really. Yeah.
Gordon is good as gold.
Gordon's good as gold. Yeah. Just the sunray and the crown, that kind of thing. Yeah. Sorry. You've inspired us.
I feel like we need to do a colour palette right now.
Yeah.
But you know,
get the catalogue out.
The thing is, you make me feel a little bit lazy, right? So it's anything, right? In a world of, it sounds like a really deep, it's not a deep question. In a world of trends, what makes something timeless then?
What makes something timeless?
Because I'm thinking, right, in my house,
classic.
Like, we moved into a house 4 years ago, old house, exchanged it with my mother-in-law. It's got 1930s paneling, the dark paneling.
Yes.
And we're petrol blue, we'll do petrol blue. And I'm thinking, it's a big job. And if it doesn't look good in 3 years' time, we're going to be really frustrated with ourselves.
Yeah.
With what we've done to the original wood.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But
I'll try to tap you up for free advice, by the way. But you know, I'm looking at it all the time.
Hang on, that's the problem. It's not starting something is a crime against all of that. Do you know what I mean? Not starting something is worse than doing something then changing it.
You've just landed yourself in the Helena camp because she's frustrated with me because I'm overthinking.
Yes, but you got to make a choice. I think it does go down to gut feeling. Do you do a gut feeling thing as well? If you're having doubts, go out the room, come back in and go.
But also, and that timeless thing, like I think sometimes we try and trick ourselves a little bit with timelessness because, like you were saying about your sofa that you've had it's the first sofa you've bought. And you might not have it now because you might have it because it's still comfortable and it's got happy memories, but you maybe go, actually, no, I can recognise the style wouldn't be what I would pick today if I was going to go out and get a sofa. So actually the timelessness didn't actually matter that much in the end, perhaps.
Yeah.
And timelessness doesn't really exist because it exists in little realms of what would be timeless to somebody who's 25 is going to be timeless to somebody who's 55. So it's all, wood paneling to some people would be, there will be a mix of people who say, leave it as it is. It must be protected in its original format. That's what the house will have been built like. There are lots of people that have painted over it. There'll be some people who pull it out.
Oh yeah.
So there are different camps.
I've my house to say, this will be lovely when you've done it up, when you've took that off.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah, but that's their choice.
Yeah,
if you
that's exactly it. So we have to be careful, I think, especially with trends. And that's why when people do come to me for like home decor advice, I always say that it's important to listen to what you would like. And it is a bit of a trap to go, do I need it to kind of look current or do I want it to be timeless? Like you have to kind of do what you think is right. And very few things in the home are sort of undoable. Like it would be a bit of a pain to take paint off wood paneling, but you could take it back to what it was if you really hated it. So I think sometimes these things you kind of pick up on the language of like, I need to do something timeless because it's the walls and it's really important. But actually, it's
I'm probably lazy and I'm thinking I want that to last for a little while.
No, the thing is, I get it because the wood paneling you go in there because it's dark wood paneling. That is like not of any time that I don't think you're going to see back in the next 30 years. But if you put a bit of paint on, that'll transform the whole thing. but the paneling has the texture. It's got a unique look about it.
Yeah.
And then just repaint that if you didn't like that kind of colour. But I would go basic, kind of keep it as is or white, and then decorate the thing with something. Use the paneling as like kind of sections for putting pictures inside of. Do you know what I mean? So
like pages of the Viz in each panel.
Like that. Oh, imagine that.
Good idea.
The whole wall,
Timeless.
comic book thing.
Timeless.
Do you know what I mean? So,
That'd be good, wouldn't it? The Profanosaurus in each panel. All the way up the
Save
stairs.
as a man cave, you could have done that. But
Yeah, I was going
it's
to say
not, so-
maybe check that with your partner before you do that.
Or maybe actually were prints.
Oh, I thought you were thinking OSB
Wrap
board. What were you like?
I've done the whole house at OSB.
Yeah. Just getting spelks every 3 days. But it's tough. It is a tough one. But for me, it would just be like 3, 2, 1, right, I'm ripping it out, and that's it. We're moving forward. That's
love
it
it.
done. You can just go for it, man.
I'd love
Why
to.
not?
Well, in some ways I'm like that, but other ways I'm a bit like you. Depends what the decision is.
Oh,
as to-
there's the discussion and the decision, but
Yeah.
you've got to go like rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At some point,
Yeah.
you've got to make one decision. Let's just do it and move the hell on with life. And then you go, right, we've moved on from that. We didn't like that, so get to a point where you can kind of be happy half with it. You know, so
Happy half.
happy half, happy better
Don't
half.
do half of it if that's what you're just suddenly thinking.
No, I was
do not do
I
half.
was thinking he's other half, kind of happy half. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have that half and I'll do that half.
I'll tell you what, yeah. I'll keep the sofa, but you can paint the walls. That's it. It's a good compromise. That's how the relationship stays together.
Compromise, when it comes to home decor, is a tricky thing, I think, don't you? Because we all have different tastes, don't we? And it's quite hard to cohabit with anybody and get a cohesive kind of look
but
together.
some of it is just, it's what you're willing to give away. It's like
Yes.
you said before with the kids, and you start to just think, actually,
Give the kids a bit.
Yeah.
is this really worth, vintage? Yeah. Is it worth the battle? Or what am I willing to just give away?
Yeah.
Is it that important?
Yeah.
What about trends with like relationships and stuff like that? Is there anything?
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff happening around that.
From things and items to people and
That we have to understand those relationships before we can sort of forecast any product or decor trends. So we've got like a research model, and it's called the RISE model. So it's sort of relationships, environment, society, and identity make up this sort of RISE model. But the relationships piece is so important because, say, for example, at the minute there was a piece in one of the papers a few weeks ago about the rise in, I think it was over 60s divorces, led by women. So more women are filing for divorce over 60, and immediately when you the article called them the silver splitters. That was the sort of they always love to have that kind of headline.
Good name for a band.
An all-female over 60s band,
Yeah,
the Silver Splitters.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because then we start to think about, well, where are these women living, and what are the consequences? What's the fallout from this? How are people designing their life over 60? What is it they've seen at 60 that they want to change for the next, potentially 30 or 40 years? Because people are living older, living longer. So yes, relationships really matter, because when those things start to change, then society starts to change, our expectations start to change, our physical homes start to change as well. And I've read loads of stuff recently about the rise of sort of communes for particularly older women who are gathering together instead of saying, let's all live independently in all of these sort of expensive households where we're all paying our own electricity bills and gas bills and running, several households. Let's club together and find a way to live together communally, and then get help in as we move into old age, bring that help into that environment. It's really interesting.
That's very interesting.
So interesting.
Yeah.
That is future. That's
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's really, like, say human behaviour, adapt like that.
Yeah.
What about younger people as well? 30-somethings. I've recently kind of spoken to a few that just go, life's too short, so we'll finish it. After like a 10-year or something like that, you're like, hang on, you're just going to finish it now? And
I think that comes from, we don't have jobs necessary for life anymore. We are, the younger generations, I think, are really dialed into this fact that, like, you can change your life. You can move, even just the amount of people that move abroad now, to move abroad to live, that percentage, that is very high. So much has changed. When I look back to when I was a sort of teenager, people even having a foreign holiday was quite kind of, unusual. If somebody went
Yeah.
abroad on holiday,
Once every 4 years.
it
or
was a
something.
middle class activity. It wasn't something that was afforded to working class people. Whereas being able to work abroad, holiday abroad, change your life, change your job, there's a more flexibility, get married later, not get married at all. There are much, at least in this country, there are other countries where that's not the case, but we do have more of that flexibility and freedom.
It's sort of exciting though, isn't it? If you
Yeah.
can get rid of it's not taboo, but our generations, our lives were kind of linear.
Yes.
There was an expectation in terms of pathways. If
Like
you've got the
university, then
confidence
job,
to just let go of the steering wheel and abandon that, actually growing up without expectation is probably quite a liberating thing.
I think
'cause you
so.
put
I think
pressure on yourself, don't you, for the lifestyle that somebody's sold you?
Yes.
Not what you
I
want.
think there's two sides to it. I've certainly
Yeah.
read a lot about the fact that it's easy to see that as a liberation, but also the flip side of that is it's much harder to get on the housing ladder. So it's harder to kind of get the things that maybe our generation could get access to through hard work and all the usual routes that we were sort of told, if you do these things, these are the steps you can take.
Because those things required security. Didn't they?
Yeah. So there is definitely a school of thought which is, well, it's much harder to get those things. So why bother? Why bother trying to save up a deposit to buy a house if that's, if your first house is, I can't remember what the average price of a first time house. I mean, it'll be less in the northeast, but it's very high.
Very hard.
Yeah.
So I think there is a whole sort of group of people who are saying, well, why would that be my priority then if it's been made impossible
Well, that's
for me?
the point. So
I
when you're
can
talking about
have that
women having
flexibility.
communes,
Yeah.
similarly, young kids are going to be more nomadic and kind of just like,
Yeah.
that's not an aspiration for me because I can't achieve it,
Yeah.
so I don't want it.
Yeah. It does.
And
It
the housing
changes.
market changes.
It does. It changes the sort of the foundations of the societal structure. It definitely changes that. Even just the retirement age, all those things really shift, and that's why it makes it so difficult for governments to make long-term decisions because there's so much change happening.
Why is everything so really hard to achieve, like housing ladder and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, everyone's like struggling just to get to something which should be a basic.
Yeah. And, I think we're moving towards a more European culture where renting is the norm. And if you look at sort of other European countries, it's
is where we
less
were,
common.
weren't we?
It's less common to buy and own
it's
a
accepted
property.
though in different cultures as well, in different kind of societies. So.
We were at that point pre-Thatcher,
Yes. Yeah.
and that was like a political intervention. That was like a trend forecasting, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Because she wanted that transformation of society
It's
for people to own their own
a
things.
society shaping act, isn't it? As all political decisions are, they're society shaping acts, and it says something about what that political power wants culture and society to be like, and we get to feel the sharp end of that. We get to live that out on the back of those decisions.
Do you see everything as an equal positive and negative as well? There's like yin and a yang to these things.
Probably. I've never really thought about it that way, but probably yes. I think because I've trained myself to try and see things from different angles. I mean, we all have a bias. We just do. We have an inherent bias, and it's in my job. I have to look for that, but I also have to invite people in that have other views that are different to mine, different ages, races, religions, also, people who have different ethnicity, different culture, to come and bring their perspectives. So when we're forecasting trends, we've got 16 people in my business that are, all day, every day team members, but then we invite different people in from different countries, different cultures to share their perspectives on a trend, because we've got to see it from different angles. And it's almost too much to expect of yourself that you're going to be able to remove your own bias. It's just, you're just never going to fully be able to do that. You have to be able to see things through a different lens. So I do try and do that and think, have I seen it from all angles? But that is never as good as getting a community of views that will say, well, actually, have you thought about this might be a reason? So that's like diversity of thought really matters in trend forecasting. Otherwise you risk, especially in my line of work where we're advising multi-billion-dollar brands, we cannot afford to give them our narrow view. That would be wholly inappropriate and unprofessional. We have to give them an honest, expanded view of what's happening, and that will be flavoured from the different people that we invite into that conversation. And we have to ask those brands to accept that flavour as well, and not to just see it through the lens they'd prefer to see things through. There's so much more happening in the world than any one perspective would allow you to see.
I'm always intrigued though to know what other people think. And what, like even young people ask the kids, what do you think of this? What's in now? What's this? What's that? Because it's just knowledge, and knowledge is king, isn't it? It's kind of, it's sort of, you can learn and understand how things are. And I think there's a little bit of like an ease to things. Oh, well, that's because of that. That's because of this. It's sort of figuring it out, figuring the puzzle out. You know?
I think that's the most interesting part of trend forecasting is you get to, especially when something new happens. And I love it when there's something new that happens that I have a bad reaction to. I'm like, oh, that's awful. What is that? Why would someone do that?
Yeah.
I love it when that happens because immediately I can kind of, my professional brain kicks in and says, oh, hang on a second. So I have a particular taste level for something and that's offended my taste level somehow. Why might it be? What's behind that? And what is that? Then I'll have the curiosity for what is that person doing and what's their thinking behind that? Or why would that be interesting to them? And that's where it does get interesting because you get to find out why they're making their choices.
Yeah, but majority of the time, like your phone, your watch keeps vibrating.
I know.
Throw it in there. Throw it in the bin.
I think I might.
Majority of the time, like these things are created not by the people who it's targeted for as well. So these are kind of made because this is the reason why we've made it, because we know there's a audience out there who wants that kind of thing as well. But sometimes these things just pop up over time. It's like what's in my brain is Prime, the drink Prime.
Yes, yeah.
That went huge. But I love the fact that it was my boy just wanted to collect the bottles. He wasn't bothered about the drink. So you collect the bottles and put them on his shelf. I'm like,
it's really interesting. It's a status symbol, isn't it?
It is a status symbol thing. And then we go back to remember getting the Sprite yo-yos and the kind of Coca-Cola yo-yos and things like that. It's collecting these things. And we did the same thing.
I think it's so interesting where a food and drink item becomes a status symbol. I think that is fascinating. At the minute it would be, it's, not so much now, but the I've forgotten what they're called, the huge drinks bottles.
Stanley
Cups.
Stanley have gone from a fisherman's like flask, right?
It's so
to
interesting.
Sippy cup drinks. But they're massive, they're huge. You go on a Phoenix and you cannot move.
And in the States, that trend tipped before it tipped here, and it was gigantic. They just couldn't, we work with a lot of large retailers in the US and they couldn't supply the demand quick enough. And you tend to think, surely how many people are there in America and if everyone's just buying one, but people weren't just buying one.
What was the tipping point moment though? What,
like who started that kind of thing?
I did have written an article about this. I just can't quite remember the entire story of it. But there is, like you say, it's interesting to think of it as like an existing brand. It wasn't brand new. It existed for a lot of years. It wasn't for that audience. And all of a sudden, you put something like the skincare industry where hydration becomes a status symbol, I suppose, if you want to call it that, where, hydrated skin from a beauty perspective becomes a desirable status. And then you start to see water as the sort of source point for that. And then you start to, you see these particularly girls carrying around these huge things of water. And then it becomes a colour choice because actually you could pick different colours and it had to be a Stanley. It couldn't be an alternative brand. So there are loads of things going on there, even just with that one trend. And actually, and I just think it's so fascinating. But when a food and drink item becomes a status symbol, I think that is, I haven't quite figured out what is the switch between if we're all wearing grey tracksuits, but the food and drink item is the status symbol. It's the same that I think with nails at the minute, nail art, and nails are a real way for particularly young girls to kind of express their individuality. They're not doing it through their clothing. They're doing it through things like their nails and the cup, the drinks receptacle that they carry around, whether that's a Starbucks cup or a matcha or whatever that thing is. That's the photographable, the Instagrammable, the social media.
Yeah. We mentioned this yesterday as well with the matcha and then the strawberry drinks and stuff like that. But I definitely see the influence from my daughter by watching like clips and Americans using these items as well. So that feeds in, and the more you see it, the more people are watching it. That feeds into the algorithm because you're following the same kind of people.
Yes.
And then they're having the thing, so you want to buy the thing, and then that's why people are buying the thing. I'm like, right, okay, I understand it now.
Yeah, and that's always been the case, but now social media makes that transfer. Once upon a time that would have been somebody went to America on holiday and they bought, I don't know, a pair of Nike trainers and they brought them back and that influenced people. So it's always been the case. That's how influence spreads, but it can spread much more quickly now because of social media and how...
It's mad how quick it goes though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can be very, very quick.
Yeah, because you just saw it straight away with the White Hawks footies. That's a band.
That's a fake brand.
White Fox,
that's our version.
Hoodies become like the different things, and then it's the sippy cup thing, but it's a bizarre shape because the bottom so it fits in your drinks holder.
Yeah,
but it's
They're
massive.
also very top heavy.
but you can't probably fit the whole thing in. You probably like have to angle it because of the windscreen.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like they're so big though. Like if you designed that and went, I've got an item, they'd be going, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It looks stupid, but they've created it for the demand. I think it's kind of like that blows my mind as well.
Yeah, because the portability factor is awful, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
not
it
like,
is, yeah.
and although you probably could chuck it in your backpack and walk around with it,
Yeah.
that's not what people want to do. They want to physically hold it and carry it around.
Yeah.
There's so much there. You could
Almost
do
like deliberately.
You could write a book just
not
on
portable.
the Stanley Cup, like what it represents,
yeah.
why it's important,
Yeah.
what it means to people.
Yeah.
And what's going to replace it? So, what is the thing
What's
that
next?
replaces that if people feel that they want to have,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we've moved, even young girls don't really carry things like handbags around with them. They carry their things with them and they have like keychains and things, accessories attached to the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, you know, as I say, their nail art. There's an accessorization of the self, but it's in a really, it's very visible. It's very visible. And I think
Yeah.
social media, the sort of, the imagery side of social media has driven so much of that culture.
Leggings, white socks over leggings.
Yes, yeah.
You know, it's mad,
Yeah.
isn't it? Plus also New Balance trainers. Nobody would wear New Balance like
Oh, that's
when
still
we
my
were
favourite
kids.
Yeah.
trainer.
Now they're £100 a pair.
Yeah.
The same thing we saw 30 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
Which is that colour combo. Gazelles and they're still back in.
And things like Asics, you know, really, really
Asics
popular
were
again,
yeah.
which were, you know, a runner's shoe that you would wear if
Yeah.
you were running.
Yeah.
You would never wear them out.
Yeah, but like an American white old lady trainer as well, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So it's just like a trainer. It's white, like pop white. But that was
peaceful.
dirty in about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like it's just a normal standard trainer. Yeah, just sort of that's in now as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
It's like you go and the high pull up socks on blokes white. I'm like, why would you do that? But it's like
Give it a year. I
Just
think
give it
you'll
a year, I'll
be.
take a photograph of Dan in the gym.
got no chance. Because people be taking pictures of me going,
said
what's
it
he
now.
doing? Yeah.
That's going to be my
it's mad,
project
isn't it?
for the year.
I
See if I
kinda-
can plant
yeah,
these seeds in
yeah.
your brain.
No, but like
I'll
I
influence them.
definitely, it's definitely age related as well. It is. It's a cultural thing. It's a community thing, and it's age thing. And you go, there's a cusp of like you're a bit too old for that kind of thing, and you're a bit
That
too
is
young.
interesting,
It's
isn't it,
definitely like
where
a
there
window,
are-
I think.
Those sort of rules that you either put on yourself,
rules,
but
yeah.
actually, where do those rules come from? They can
Yeah.
be society limiting beliefs rather than real ones.
Do you push against that? See, I don't subscribe to that at all.
I kind of
don't like it.
No, I do, as in that's not for me.
yes.
Because
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable doing that because it's just kind of it is right for you or not right for you. Look, if Brad Pitt walked in, he could get away with anything, but he's like an anomaly. He's like the 1%. It's like you see models and the it's because of the perfect symmetry. That's why you're attracted
Yeah.
to seeing that person because of the perfect symmetry.
Yeah.
That's why they're the top model. There's just a thing which your eye is appealed to.
Yeah, but I think with trends, they can be things that there's a little bit of like understanding of the social conditioning that we always have to do with trends where we tell ourselves that they are or they aren't for us. And some of that we've just taken along with us on the journey. Like, for example, that trends are for young people. Like that would be, you know, if you had to sit down and write your top 10 beliefs about trends, probably that would come up, it might come up. Like I think, who are trends for? Well, they're for younger people. So automatically when a new trend comes along, there'll be a little bit of a part of your brain, if that was one of your 10 beliefs, that will believe it's not for you and you won't allow yourself to engage with it. So I think there's always this idea that like, there's some sort of storytelling going on in each of our brains about what we will allow ourselves to engage in and not engage in. And particularly for women, that's a massive, women have so many rules around that's not appropriate for work. Older women can't wear that. Young women shouldn't wear that. There were all, you know, there's a whole host of this whole rule book that women carry around in their heads around what is and is not appropriate before they make a decision about what they
That's
want
my
and what
point,
they
though.
like.
Like, it's okay to project that to yourself and set your own boundaries if you don't feel comfortable wearing a certain thing. But when I hear people vocalise, they're too old to be wearing that, or they shouldn't be, then I have a problem with it.
judgment.
I completely agree because I'm like, go for it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
It's a
I'm all
self-judgment.
out. I'm like,
Yeah.
It's
that's
self-judgment.
I like people who own who they are.
Yes.
And I don't care what it is because I'm
Yeah.
like, good, because you went, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, good on you.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
you've got the
agree.
bottle to
I
do
admire that, yeah.
I really do admire that. And it's like choices as well.
Yeah.
I would never follow the trends. You know, I undercut and I used to listen to heavy metal when I was a kid and all that kind of stuff. That was me and this is what I liked and I did that. You get rinsed all of the time for not being the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
But I'm never that bothered about that kind of
do
thing.
you know, that's another really interesting thing about trends is that kind of when you put yourself out there is the commentary and that judgment that comes back, particularly with fashion. And I think particularly in the Northeast actually as well. I think there's, you know, I think that we sort of potentially have grown up in environments where it's like more important to conform than to stand out. I can certainly think of times when I was maybe like in middle school where I would make a choice for, like, I mean, obviously wearing a uniform in middle school, so nobody's really, but you're sort of making those little choices about your socks or the coat that you wear and really sort of standing out because of those choices. And I mean, I remember I stopped getting bullied at middle school because of a coat that I bought. Yeah. And this coat was not warm. And my mum bought it for me and she was like, that is not a winter coat. And I was like, I want that coat. I've got to have that coat. And so that coat for me became this like protection item because as soon as I started wearing that, these girls that bullied me were like, where'd you get your coat from? Oh, it's actually quite nice. And they thought it was like, suddenly I was cool because I had this coat. I just think there's so much interesting stuff around, you know, that would have shaped my beliefs as a young girl to think, actually, it turns out when you've got the right gear, people leave you alone. Yeah. And there's a lot of kids that either wore glasses at school or had braces where that would have, now that's not a big deal. People could get braces as an 11-year-old kid now and go to school tomorrow and nobody would say a thing.
Well, braces become fashionable. I mean, they're colorising them and all the things that we never had.
So there's definitely, we carry a lot of storytelling, I think, about what we allow ourselves to do and not do. And that definitely taps into trends. And that's why when I was saying before about, has your neighbour done something? Has your friend done something? Has someone at the gym who seems to be sort of your age, started wearing white socks pulled up? And do you now think, actually, he looks all right in that? I maybe, or maybe there's a new piece. I noticed a piece on, it was about women's gym wear saying, you can kind of judge a woman by the kind of socks they wear to the gym. And if they're wearing those ankle socks, that means they're of this particular generation or type of person. So it's not so much like that the white pulled up socks become something that you get scared of. You fear away from the thing that you're doing and you fear in towards a new behaviour. So the resistance towards I'm using the pulled up white socks as such a good example. The resistance towards that wears down because the fear builds up against what you were currently doing and you start to go, I can't do that anymore.
Fashion that way though, haven't it? To break out of their own self-perception.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember doing that with turn-ups in the 90s. Yeah. But always kind of leaving the house and, rolling your jeans up and everything. Yeah. But then getting halfway down the street and then unraveling them again because I think, I look ridiculous. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, that's
I love that. Yeah. I think that's that's the human experience, isn't it? It's like, am I brave enough today to put this self into the world? And then 5 minutes down the street, I'm not. No, I can't.
But I remember it was like an opposite version of your coat. Like I remember being in my, maybe about 17, 18. And I'd started wearing like cargo pants, right? And that's nothing, but it was then. Yeah. In Hebburn, right? I got heckled walking down the street wearing a pair of Birkenstocks and a pair of green cargo pants. But then to me, that became like an act of defiance. Yeah. And it sort of forged part of my identity when I was a teenager. Yeah. Because the more it irritated people, the more I went down that way, down that avenue.
That's kind of what I mean about the Northeast thing as well. I mean, I can't remember who it was, but there was a celebrity who, I think she was a northern woman, and she said that she'd worn a beret in her hometown, and it took like all of 5 minutes for someone to lean out of a van and shout bonjour at her as she walked down the street. And she was like, so I moved to London where I could wear a beret and nobody batted an eye. And I just think there's something about that kind of the expression of self that is maybe a little bit harder. It's maybe a little bit harder to do in any northern city or any northern town. But there's that kind, maybe because we sort of, this is what people are like here, and there are only certain boxes you can fit into.
I do think it's.
I love that example. I thought that's exactly nailed. It's nailed it.
Bonjour.
It's great. It's so good.
No, but I mean, you are completely right, because you have this sort of set of rules which you kind of adhere to. Oh, I can't do that. I can't say that. And then when I moved to London, no one gave a hoot about any of that kind of stuff. And it was so multicultural.
Because there's more diversity.
And thought about different things, and you go like, Christ, I'm very judgy about everything. It's because you're surrounded by judgy all the time. Yeah. And then you go back home and then you're getting rinced because of the things.
Because you're wearing a beret.
That's it.
And your white socks
back, your turn-ups and your berry on.
I would have probably done that at some point.
Your peanut catchers, what I used to call them. But that's it. But it's mad. I'm fascinated by the psychology of it all as well. But you have to lean into what you want.
You do.
What you want to be and who you want to be as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you package up all this curiosity? So, as being a child, because we've talked about what you do now.
Yeah.
How did you arrive at this point though? Like, so you went into fashion.
Yeah.
How did all that happen?
So I did art and design A-levels, and I had a really great teacher who said, I think you could have you thought about doing fashion? And I was like, I didn't know fashion was like a job that people did. I thought it was just if I had the money, I would save up and buy like one of those catwalk Elle magazines, which just had all the pictures of the catwalk in there. So I just saw fashion as something that I was a consumer of it. I didn't think I had a place to participate in that world. It just never, ever crossed my mind. I mean, I was brought up in rural Northumberland in a tiny village outside of Hexham. Like, it just was there was nobody working in fashion. So until this teacher mentioned that there was a sort of pathway and there was something there that I could apply, I just thought, oh, well, maybe I'll try. And applied to Newcastle College, did an art foundation and selected fashion as my subject, and then applied for university to Kingston University in Surrey and got in there. So I just sort of was taking the next logical step and trying to find all the time. There was a girl who was about 4 years older than me. She was from my village. I'd never actually met her, but when I used to go into the art shop in Corbridge, the lady in the art shop used to say to me, oh, do you know this older girl? And she's done fashion and she went to Kingston. So she was kind of breadcrumbing this journey for me, for this girl I'd never met. But I thought, well, if she can do it and she's from here, maybe I can. So that's why I applied to Kingston, because I heard about this girl I'd never met, who the art shop lady said it was one of the best courses in the country. I thought, I'll look it up. Thought it sounded good, applied for it and got onto that course. And actually I did eventually meet that girl, and she gave me my first ever internship for Topshop years later. So I just kind of followed that trail through. Fashion seemed to be the thing that I wanted to do. When I got to university, I realised I was really bad at making clothes. I was awful at knitting, because you have to physically make the things that you design. It's part of the process. You've got to turn a 2-dimensional idea that comes out of your head into 3D, and people have to be able to wear it, be comfortable in it. It needs not to fall apart. It's got to be washed. There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's a manufacturing job.
It's really, And so you learn all of that in the first few weeks, really, of your fashion degree. Is like, okay, this is several. Really, the fashion industry is made up probably of thousands of jobs that you experience, nearly all of those within your 3 years at university. You're trying to figure out which bit you love. Do you love measuring and cutting cloth? Do you love designing? In my world, it was the colour palettes, and I wasn't great at drawing, but it was the ideas, pulling the themes together. I remember doing a project based on what my granddad wore in like the 1930s and getting all these old photographs together and doing all the research. So I loved all of the research element, but I didn't know there was a job in just that bit. I thought you have to go and do the whole fashion thing. So I think it was about second year when I heard we got taught about the trend forecasting industry. And I think there were about 200 jobs worldwide at that point. And we had a careers advisor who said, look, you're not going to get a job as a trend forecaster. You've trained to be a menswear designer. Go off and learn your craft, get a job doing that. And that's what you need to do. So I took that advice pretty seriously. I thought, well, she's not wrong. And my first job, I applied for a job in New York, and I got my first job in New York. So I went in my Easter holidays and it was the old days where we used to get a grant to go to university, I might add. So I used a bit of my grant money, booked myself flights to New York, and went to see a recruitment agent out there with a friend of mine. And we both got interviews the next day for the same company. She got the women's wear assistant interview, and I got the menswear assistant interview. We both got the jobs. So we came back from our Easter holidays with our final projects to deliver before we graduated with jobs. So we were the only people in our class that had done that. So when the course ended, obviously I packed up and off. I went to New York to work as a menswear designer, but quite quickly got that itch for like, oh, I can't just, I was prolific in the amount of work I could get out. And all of a sudden it was just, if you could just kind of, stick these things to this board. And I found it really slow, and I just wanted to work at this pace that was really irritating for the people I was working for. You could tell they were just like, oh, this every 5 minutes I was coming back with like, oh, give me more. It felt just slow. I found the pace sort of so
Why has this girl
excruciating.
got so much ambition?
Yeah, like why? In fact, the first week I got there, they said, we're not really ready for you. Just like take a week off, go to the park. Well, of course, I had no money. I just graduated, had nothing. And I was living in a terrible hotel that actually it was so dangerously bad. Our TV exploded one night and set on fire.
Whereabouts? In New York?
This was on like 34th Street, right in the middle of the tourist sector, was this really bad, cheap hotel. So I lived in that for about 3 months. And so I couldn't stay in the hotel and I didn't have any money to do anything. I just read. I just sat in the park and read all day for that first week. But I was really ready to get my teeth into something. I had loads of energy. And what really transpired over the years was I needed to do my own thing. There was never going to be a job that would kind of fill the pace that I wanted to work at. And when you're junior, you're just not in a position to kind of raise your hand all the time and go, I think we could do it this way. I think we could do it that way. So I did do a lot of trend forecasting that was nobody asked for in that job because I just wanted to do it. So I'd stay late and do mood boards, leave them on people's desks and things like that. And they used to say, well, we'll buy you a pizza if you work late. So I used to think, great, I'll get fed. So I'd work till 10 o'clock at night to get my meal paid for, but also to experience trend forecasting and to do it in real life for this company. Because they weren't doing any, they were growing massively, but they weren't doing any trend forecasting.
How you hustled your way into
I
an
did.
opportunity.
I
That's
just
fantastic.
elbowed my way in.
Brilliant story.
But you used the opportunity to your advantage.
And it meant that when I came back to London, I had 2 portfolios. I had this was my day job, my design portfolio. So I knew I could design at that point. And I had my trend forecasting portfolio, which was fully used by the company. They hadn't really asked me to do it. And my boss had sort of said, look, I know what you're doing. I know that you want to do this, but I haven't brought you here and paid for your visa for you to do this. You need to be a designer. That's what you're here for. But if you want to do it in your own time, you can.
That's good.
So I just took that opportunity.
But that, with a header of a company above it,
it had credibility,
that.
it did,
Yes, it does.
So
it meant that I could come back and go to a contact that I had at Top Man and say, I've got 2 strings to my bow. And he said, that's what I'm looking for. That is what I'm looking for. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a job for you, but I have an internship that's paid, which was something like half the salary I'd been on in New York. And he said, if you do that, you're in the business, people will see you, you're visible, if other jobs come up. And I think I was only on that internship salary for 6 months before a job came up that again was probably 2 or 3 rungs up from where I was. It was big shoes to fill actually, but it was more money. And I was always happier when I had more to learn, more to do, more to grow into, rather than, oh God, what time is it? I can't, I remember one time someone asked me to design some men's socks. And I was like, it was Valentine's Day socks. That was the project. Go and design us some socks for Valentine's Day. I was like, how many do you want? 20 pairs. So I designed them 50 pairs in like a morning. And they were like, oh, we thought that would take you maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, no. So yeah, it felt like a drag all the time. I needed to be in control of my own workflow. I could work as hard as I want.
yeah,
It seems similar to it's reminding me of Peter's story. Remember when Peter Manning tells us his story? And he went to New York and worked for Donna Karan. Do you know Peter?
Peter's amazing.
He's
incredible.
Is that where all Northeast creative brains go to New York, then come back home?
Well, there's a good sort of chunk of people that do that. Yeah, you do, and you meet obviously all the Brits out there. When you're there, you meet all the Brit creatives. You run in similar circles to people, so you tend to meet all the people.
Yeah, it's a small world though, isn't it? Yeah. You can go like halfway around the world and meet somebody similar to you.
Yeah.
Lives closer to you.
Yeah,
I mean, it's smart.
It was really fun, fun time. And living in New York when you're like 22 or something it was incredible. It was really, really fun. I'm pleased that I did it when I was young, and it was a great time to do it.
Yeah, but it's experience, and you've got the time to do it. That's the thing. You wouldn't even think about doing that now.
Yeah,
it's like how can this be possible?
I mean, the thought of living in a really a metropolis now just doesn't appeal to me. I love to go and visit, but living in that environment, it's
when you're young though, there's something about the anonymity of living in a big city, isn't there?
Just the energy of it. It's like a really incredible place, but it gives you a lot of energy, but it takes a lot of energy, when you're there all the time.
But I think you've got to drop yourself in it to understand if you want that or not.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
Plus also it gives you time to sit in the park and go, right, okay. Yourself time.
Because there's also like the thing that you think you're going to get by doing that. And at the start of your career, you're thinking, I just need like you know, to build my license to design, I just need to like get some years under my belt, learn the skills, learn the art of my career. But you're not really thinking about, oh, I'm actually, you know, leaving all my family and friends behind. I'm having to kind of start from scratch. And there's loads of stuff that just is part and parcel of moving abroad and working abroad that you just have to, you learn that as you go. Like what happens when you get homesick, but actually in America, you don't get any holiday until you've been there for a full year. So you can't come back. You're there for a full year, whether you like it or not. And so there were definitely spells where I was thinking, oh, you know, normally if I'd been in London at university, I would have been able to travel home in between. If I'd got homesick, I could do something about that. Whereas when you're abroad and you haven't got a lot of money, there's no option to do that.
But the cure for being homesick is just keep yourself busy.
Oh, I was busy.
Yeah, exactly. That's brilliant. Map. I was going to say
What map?
Map menu.
You can look at the map if you want.
Look at the map.
Trend map.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. We're on track.
Oh, we don't ever get this right.
I'll never get this right. Plus, we've been reading a few as well because I'm just looking down here just in case we want to ask you a question. Because there could be some trends in this thing. You know?
Yeah, there could be.
What's the? We've been asking this a lot lately. Leaned into the person's unique skill
expertise.
set. One of those, yeah. I lost my words there. Sorry. I'm going to go for it.
Go for it.
Top three trends at the minute.
Top 3 trends at the minute. God, that's really... my brain's going... all the neurons are firing. So I'm going to go with one that is a trend at the minute, but you're going to go, well, that's not new. And it isn't new, but it's so important, which is the way we consume global news. I think it's the biggest thing that shapes everything we do because we're switched on to 24/7 news culture in a way that we weren't before. And I think it shapes our daily life and our decisions, how much money we're going to save or spend, how much disposable income we think we've got based on like, oh, there's geopolitical tensions happening. So I need to maybe be a little bit careful. Or should I fill my tank up with petrol this week? Because it might go up again by another 10 pence next week. So we're dialed into like global politics in a way because the news culture thrives on firing us this news all the time. And the more negative, the more tension, the more traction it gets from their perspective. And I just can see us living under the cloud of that in everything that we do at the minute. So it's not new, but it is a trend, and we weren't doing it 20, 25 years ago, and we are doing it now, and it is shaping. I think it's shaping the birth rate. I think it's helping people decide whether they do or don't want to have kids based on the fact of what they think is the anticipation of all this bad stuff happening in the world.
You think
I think
it's
it's
because
massive.
it's so ubiquitous and it's like constant? And 'cause
Yes.
even like 15 years ago, you're buying a newspaper or you're watching the news at certain points.
You could
You might
select
get like
it.
CNN or something.
Yeah,
if
you had
You
a
could
day
select.
to digest that
Yeah.
before the
And
next
you
thing
had
came
a
out.
choice to opt out of it. Like you try and opt out of modern news culture. It's extremely difficult. If you are using social media and if you are consuming any sort of TV or any sort of media online, it's really difficult to do that. So I think that's one of the big things that I think is this huge sort of umbrella that's shaping a lot of our decisions. So it is a trend, but it is an example of a long-ranging, sort of broadly influential trend.
But it's influencing mindset as well, and it's influencing like society, but not in a good way.
Yes.
Because bad news, that's clickbait.
Yes.
That's all it is.
It is, yeah. It makes
frustrates
money.
the life out of me. It's like headlines on YouTube really, really bug the life out of me.
Yeah.
And I've stopped following certain ones, which I enjoyed watching because I know what they're reaching for.
Yes.
They gain more followers. I'm the opposite. That detracts me from wanting to see it because I know what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's almost like seeing behind the curtain is a bit too much sometimes on everything that you understand because it does put you off.
Yeah, which leads me on to my next trend, which is slightly linked, but we've been forecasting a trend around, or we've been looking at the trends in masculinity with regards boyhood specifically, because we work a lot in toys and games and work with a lot of media companies on what they put in front of children. And we wrote a report in something like 2019 called The Lost Boys, and it was about a generation of boys growing up with a lack of visible role models. And obviously we know this has transpired now into a world where there are lots of quite negative influences on the future of masculinity and boyhood, and that sort of culminated in the Netflix.
The Manosphere.
Yeah, the
Manosphere's become a name now.
yeah, the Manosphere, but there was Adolescence before that previously.
Yes.
So these are kind of this is culture holding a mirror up to us. It's sort of media holding a mirror up to us to ask us what kind of expression of masculinity we want to portray. And so we're forecasting sort of the impact of that on boyhood for parents raising young boys at the moment. And there's this kind of shift, the sort of antithesis to that, which is a softer approach to raising boys and making sure that boys and men understand that nurturing is part of their nature as much as it's a part of a woman or a girl's nature. And there's a big shift towards parents starting to raise boys in a very particular way, which has a breadth of what masculinity can be. So that's quite a nice trend.
Do you see a
because
positive outlook in all of this?
there is positive. It's that light and shade again, isn't it? And if we weren't, as I say, we've been following this trend for a really long time, but actually in terms of it culturally being interesting, you know, I think for Netflix that Adolescence was their most watched or had the highest viewer numbers for 2025 of anything that they put out. So it was hugely influential and lots of people wanted to see it and saw it and had opinions about it. So that tells us something about our appetite for that. Whereas if you'd put that out 3 years ago, would it have resonated? There were certainly reports written, TV shows made about the same topic that didn't resonate. But something
perfect timing, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, perfect timing.
It was relatable.
Yeah.
Felt urgent.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's one of those things I just kind of like. It was like a rocket ship, wasn't it? Of the amount of people watch it like they're watching Game of Thrones.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
But around the world as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm hearing it on podcasts.
Yeah.
And that's quite unusual for a British program like that. You know, to kind of do something like that. So, yeah.
So that'd be my second one. My third one, I'm going to go down that sort of fitnessy route that you mentioned before, because I think there's something really interesting happening there as well. Something around sports, health and community I think is really interesting. And I wonder whether, I still think we've got the kind of residue of the pandemic. It's just in some of the things that we do still. We've still got that little bit in the back of our head, which is we were all kind of prevented from making choices we would like to have made. We were prevented from socially interacting with people in a way we would like to have done. And I think we're starting to see the residue of that and the build away from fully digital online lives, where people are starting to go, actually, I just want to back away from some of this stuff for some of my day and move into these fitness clubs, health environments, well-being environments where you can be with like-minded people in a physical environment. So I think that's lovely to see that come back and to see that sort of sense of local community valued to the same degree that we value this, being able to tap into a global network through social media. So I think there's a lot of sports, fitness, health brands, and probably on the back of that, food brands, fashion brands, lifestyle brands that want to, you know, if you look at what Nike are doing loads of nice work in running communities all over America. They're really dialed into the small grassroots movements.
They do, but I see there's a lot of other advertising companies or sort of global brands doing the same thing, which you kind of going, that's not really about that product at all. Do you know what I mean? So you're talking like Shell are doing like, it's like you're too far leaning trying to be something
authenticity
on
really
the other
matters,
side.
doesn't it?
It does, because for me, it's just, once again, good feeling, good instinct.
Yes.
You're going, I don't think this sits right. You know
And
what
if
I
it
mean?
feels off, it's been manufactured, hasn't it?
Greenwashing,
It's like,
sort of.
Yeah.
Well, it is greenwashing's doing that and go buy my car. You're like, what?
Yeah.
How was that relate to that? The run thing, I get it. Nike, trainers, this, that, and the other. It's like, it's, you know, it's a low priced item.
You can spot it a mile off, can't you? When there's a mismatch between what a company says it's about and then what it actually does.
The community and that, I'm like, it winds us up as well, because we all about the grassroots and telling the story from people, you know, and telling the truth and being authentic about everything.
Yeah.
And then you see people with loads of money chuck it all into it, and you go, well, that makes no sense.
Yeah, and that's exactly the thing with trends, is that people, you know, a large company can spot a trend, but spotting the trend isn't where the magic happens. Like knowledge isn't where the magic happens. It's what you do with it that really matters. Yeah. And it has to be completely embedded with your cultures as a business, your culture, your values as a business. It has to feel authentic, has to seem like something that's a natural fit. Otherwise, it just looks like they're trying to tap into that trend, and that doesn't work.
It's like the McDonald's CEO who tried to eat the McDonald's and everyone just rinsed them for it because it just wasn't authentic at all. It's kind of, but that becomes worse than why you shouldn't have done it in the first place, but you're trying to be cool and trendy on TikTok
Yes.
or whatever, and it just completely bombs. It does the opposite effect of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to see that, though, isn't
So
it?
interesting.
And then people just pick it up and off you go, and then they replicate that.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
it is. It's really interesting.
Let's get Joe to pick two.
All right, okay.
Two. And then we'll go back to the
Okay. What am I
finale.
picking? Top 3. Oh. First pint. Does that mean what would my first pint be?
Well,
What was
this
it?
could
Or
be-
was it first?
We like to say first drink because
drink.
that's different to first pint. People always go legal, then we'll go, no,
I just thought of a pint of Guinness when I read it, and I was like, I really want a pint of Guinness now.
Oh,
It
you
wasn't a
want-
pint of Guinness.
So that's your first pint now. What was your
My first
first?
pint now.
Would you want to say your first drink? Can you?
My
can you?
first alcoholic drink would have been, I mean, I don't know, but it would have been something that somebody had brought to a house party.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents don't drink, so we never had alcohol in the house.
We didn't have alcohol in the house either.
So really, to get hold of alcohol as and I'm talking, I would have been 15 or 16 because I think then it would have been house parties, and that's when people, I think people are a little bit older now when they start to go down that route than I would have been in the 90s. But it would have been whatever. I wouldn't even have known what it was. Be something random at someone's mum's cabinet somewhere. But we
brandy or
certainly
something.
weren't
Like
all the things
Sherry.
that aren't advisable now.
totally ill-advised, something disgusting probably. So yeah, but that would have been the play. It would have been house parties and like who can magic up what from where, and can you hide it under your
Well,
coat
isn't
on the
that
way
what-
out the door?
Isn't that what Minchella's did?
Yeah.
It was just a mixture of all of the drinks in a
I forget
bottle.
what they call it though.
I had a name for it, didn't
It was some it was some
Hangover
kind of concoction.
3.0.
No, it was like some hot sauce or something. But it was just every drink. But
But I do remember. I can remember sort of in the sort of would have been sort of what mid-90s when I was sort of drinking age, and it was. We were talking about the music culture at that time, but can you remember the whole like ladette culture? Can you remember that?
yeah,
Would
yeah,
be
of
the
course.
sort of Zoe Ball and all that kind of thing. That was the female visibility that I saw alongside all of the music stuff. And so it was about drinking a pint, having like a pint of lager was the state. It was the Stanley Cup.
Big moment,
Yeah,
That
wasn't
was
it?
the Stanley
in
Cup,
society?
wasn't it?
It was. It was.
That would have been the status symbol. Would have been, women can drink pints, and if that was quite outrageous for women to
It
drink
was. I
a
was
pint
actually
of
watching
beer.
Zoe Ball's podcast, and she was talking about some of her favourite pictures of that era.
Yeah.
And most of them was on a wedding when she's carrying a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Yes.
She's got Marlboro lights, and it was just an iconic picture, wasn't it? 'Cause
Yeah.
It was like that time, walking around with a bottle of whiskey in her hand and a cigarette.
So that would that was very much what what sort of pub culture sort of looked like. I think in the so yeah, probably a pint of lager. I think would be
and apart
Solid, solid.
first pint was a first pint.
But you'd have Guinness today if we were
I would
given
have
an
Guinness
option
today
right now.
every day of the week. I wouldn't drink more than like a single pint of Guinness is for me. It's like that's it. I'm done. I'm happy with that now.
I tell you, that's a great story.
Once
from
in a
trend
while.
forecasting, isn't it? With
Yeah.
the zero stuff.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
it's massive.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
yeah, low alcohol. Yeah.
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 What else?
Anything
Just
you want.
do anything else.
Curry
on there.
versus gravy sounds like a
Oh,
fish and
great.
chips.
Great. Well,
debate.
Yeah, you're right. It is a chip-based question.
And yeah, we have. I don't know if you guys know, but my husband was involved in the fish and chip industry. He's now on the food service side, so we've got I did a lot of taste testing for fish and chips when he was setting up a fish and chip shop.
Didn't know that.
So there's a long history of test. I mean, the taste test we used to do on curry sauce. We used to travel all over the Northeast and eat every.
Are you like the oracle of curry sauce for the
I was for circa 2000, whatever the years where we were doing that. But yeah,
What was the best?
the best. Well, I've got to be honest. The best one that I ever tasted was the one that he ended up making.
Really?
And he created that with a company and made his own curry sauce, and it became really popular and really famous to the point that they won like the UK's best fish and chip shop award in would have been 2019 or something like that.
Who was it?
It's
the company?
Long Sands Fish Kitchen.
Right, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Right, now I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he put a lot of time and effort into the technicality, the science of it all, the batter, the curry sauce. So yeah, I know an unreasonable amount about like potato farms and if there's rain now, I still get a little bit of a panic. Oh, this is going to be awful for the potatoes,
Yeah.
or like, just a lot of, or sometimes you would get calls from people on boats in the North Sea that caught a certain fish. Did he want it? It was coming into the fish quay that morning. So got a lot of knowledge about fish and chips that I don't I'll never need.
But the curry thing's a polarising thing.
Yeah.
Because you can get it wrong.
Yeah.
You can get it wrong. I mean, I've said, Coleman's curry's the best I've ever tasted.
It is good.
And it's quite unique,
Yeah.
because the first time I had it was about 2 months ago. I was like, what's this?
Yeah.
It's like almost you discovered something,
Yeah.
but he wouldn't tell us what's in it.
When you were sending me pictures
People are
on
very
date night.
secretive, yeah.
I sent pictures on date night. Look, this curry sauce. First time
It's very secretive, all the ingredients and, what's in the batter and it's all it's a fine, because there are only a few ingredients. So it's so
Yeah.
finely tuned that it is important what goes in. But
Yeah, I think fluffy and light on the batter. My little boy it was a fish finger sandwich the other day, and the batter was really thick. I think that was a bit of a detriment to the fish finger itself. Whereas I like a light, crispy, and a
I do, and I can highly recommend the Beadnell, the fish chip van at Beadnell. I can't remember what it's called. Best fish and chips I've had in years.
Oh,
really,
really? Yeah.
good. We only had those a couple of weeks ago. Excellent.
So yourself, are you going curry or gravy?
I'm going to go tartar sauce with my children's curry sauce, which they go nuts about that. They're like, Mum, if you wanted it, you should have just ordered it. I'm like, I know, but I just like it for the chips at the end. When you've got all the chips left over, steal the kids' curry sauce.
You can't do that. You can't steal a kid's curry sauce, Joe.
They get really cross.
I would get really cross as well.
Strategy though.
If you want one, you get one.
Because I don't share any of my food either. I'm like, I don't do sharing. And I'm like, just a little bit.
You're building a wall.
Yeah. Yeah. So they get into an age now where they've totally sussed that. And they're like, hang on a minute. You do this thing every time we have fish and chips. You have your own. You insist on having tartar sauce. And you ask several times if you want curry sauce, to which the answer is no. And then you eat ours when you've got a few chips left over. Like, they're on to me.
I don't categorise myself as a tartar sauce kind of guy, but I love it. I had it a few weeks ago, and it was because there was no other condiments.
And if it's homemade tartar sauce, it can be excellent.
It was lovely, yeah, because Kate, I just drop kick one out of the room at the minute. I don't like them, but there was something about that one.
Just the acid. It was
just a good balance and just what it needed. So I was like, okay. And when a chef just gives you a thing, you go, all right, just eat it like this. And you go, actually, he's right. He's right.
He was right.
Sorry.
Turns out,
you know what you're talking about. Brilliant. I love it. That's a good one, not like
it is very good.
One, yeah. Bit of chip-based knowledge there. Curry-based knowledge. Yeah. So, last one. What's your Greg's order?
Oh, I've been waiting for this question because I know you ask other people, and I was saying to my kids last night, this could be controversial because I
like controversial.
We do.
Don't like pasties. Mm-hmm. Don't like sausage rolls.
I'm pleased you called them pasties.
Don't like sandwiches. Mm-hmm. I'm getting a bit thin on the ground for a Greg's order. But do you know what I love from Greg's is those little, what are they called? Those little biscuits they do. It's like a double-layered biscuit with icing on top.
So we just talked about yesterday.
With the little glazed cherry on top.
Empire biscuit. Yeah.
I would die for an Empire biscuit.
It's like a cherry bakewell in a biscuit.
I love them so much. So I get my kids stuff from Greg's because they love Greg's, and we get them like little £5 like gift vouchers for their stockings for their Christmas and stuff like that. They just want Greg's vouchers. So I'll get them whatever they want, but I always say to them if they run in and get it, I'm like, get me an Empire biscuit because they're thing of beauty. So I love those.
You were in good company.
Something starting, yeah.
I mean, yesterday was a sausage roll and an Empire.
Full-on enthusiast about Empire biscuit.
But he wasn't that bothered about the sausage roll. He preferred the Empire. Was the Empire biscuit?
I love them. I can't even. I always think I'll get it in the car. We'll take it home. I'll have a cup of tea. It's gone by the time I get home. Gone. It's too delicious.
That's travel food, what we call it, So because you usually have the sausage roll on the way to the car to eat the other thing that you bought.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you need something.
Yeah, it doesn't count. Yeah, you've got time. Do you know what I mean? Can I eat this by then? Of course you can. Plus, you don't get any pasty on you. You don't get any flaky pastry on you.
Yeah.
Brush it off, move on. Always make a mess.
Car bibs, that's what we need.
Car bibs. Well, I think we should have. I thought with competition, can we do that? And get a fancy car and a Ferrari. Can you eat a pasty without getting pastry all over the car seats?
Is that an episode of the podcast?
It's like
just do it.
James Corden sings in the car. It's a carpool karaoke.
Sure, we could set that up. Pretend that we're going to buy the car and hire it for a day.
Yeah. I think what a name for it.
Somebody would sponsor you for that, I'm sure.
Of course, yeah. Somebody out there. Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Sure. Thanks so much.
It's a pleasure.